Teaching strategies for people with intellectual disabilities. Prompts: gestural, verbal, auditory, physical, hand over hand, hand under hand, graduated guidance, positional prompts, modeling, visual, contextual. Prompt hierarchy: most assistance, help, guidance. Physical prompts such as hand over hand, verbal, graduated guidance, to least assistance, help, to modeling, to gestural, to contextual prompt. Prompt fading: become dependent on prompt if not faded quickly. Choose prompts that are the least intrusive that still allow for positive learning. Set a criteria for success so that you can measure it in order to reduce prompts. A prompt that is too lean may lead to failed attempts, causing frustration, while a prompt that is too heavy may lead to prompt dependence or feelings of inadequacy. Considerations: be aware of antecedents and consequences. Emphasize self-help skills. Focus on building self-esteem. Use of preventative discipline. Watch body language. May need more time to respond. Frustration. Use multisensory approach. Use teaching aids that are adapted to person. Environment, lighting, noise, etc. Repeated trials are necessary. Visual schedules, pick symbols, etc. Reinforcers: tangibles, toys, money, edibles, candy, preferred fruit, gummies. Social: praise, encouragement, smiles. Activity: preferred activity, ceasing current activity. Intrinsic: personally rewarding, motivated to learn skill. Error correction: you will be wrong. The person doesn't adapt to you. You adapt to them. Revising your plan shows your intelligence, not your failure. As you are building your plan, try to have contingency ideas. What if? Develop your reinforcers after you know the person's currency, but if the reinforcer is not working, you need to have backup ideas to switch to. Success must be highlighted at every trial so that the person wants to try again. Close approximations. When the person incorrectly performs a step, they need to repeat it with you, providing a more assistive prompt so that the person completes the step without error. Troubleshooting: unrealistic expectations, too much too soon, or not realistic due to ability. Reinforcement is not effective due to consistency, satiation, not strong enough, not frequent enough. Environmental: steps are too large or too small. You may have chosen an inappropriate strategy. You may have moved to the next level or step too soon. May not be using correct prompts or using them incorrectly, reliant on them, or removed too soon. Shaping procedures: shaping is used when you want the student to engage in a certain desirable behavior that is, at present, infrequently or never displayed by him or her. If you were to wait for the student to show this behavior so that you could reward him or her, you might wait a very long time. Shaping allows you to build this desired behavior in steps and reward those behaviors that come progressively closer to the one you have selected as the final goal. As the student masters each sub-step, you require that she or he move on to the next increment in order to receive an award or reinforcement. For example, John never does his math homework. You would like to have him complete his homework on a daily basis. You realize that if you wait for him to complete his homework before you reinforce him in some way, you may never, or infrequently, have the opportunity to administer a positive consequence. Therefore, you decide to break down the desired behavior into sub-steps that are progressively more demanding. These steps might be: 1. John will write his name at the top of the worksheet. 2. John will complete one problem of his choice. 3. John will complete 5 problems of his choice. 4. John will complete either all of the odd-numbered problems or all of the even-numbered problems. 5. John will complete all problems except one. 6. John will complete all problems. As John masters each step, you will tell him that he must now move on to the next objective to receive a reward. If the jump between 2 steps is too difficult, then you must break down the steps even further into smaller increments. Shaping steps. How to use shaping. 1. Identify a desired behavior for the student. Determine the final goal. 2. Identify the student's present level of performance in displaying the desired behavior. 3. List the steps that will eventually take the student from his or her present level of performance to the final desired behavior. These levels of skill should be progressively more demanding. 4. Tell the student that she or he must accomplish step 1 to receive the reward. Once the student has mastered a specified behavior, require that she or he demonstrate the next stage of behavior in order to receive a reward. Backward chaining. Backward chaining refers to teaching a behavioral chain beginning with the last step. You would completely prompt the entire chain of behaviors except the last step. Using the toothbrushing example, the child would be prompted to do every single step and then would independently put the toothbrush in the toothbrush holder. Backward chaining is recommended if the child can successfully complete more steps at the end of the behavior chain. Backward chaining also has the advantage of creating a link between the most work and the biggest reinforcer. If I am using backward chaining to teach a child to make French toast, then I would prompt every step and have the child independently use a spatula to move the toast from the pan to a plate. Then we get to eat. So the most work, independent step, led to the biggest reinforcement, consuming the food. Once the last step is mastered at an independent level, then move on to the last 2 steps, then the last 3 steps, etc. Forward chaining. Forward chaining refers to teaching a behavioral chain beginning with the first step. Have the child complete the first step independently and then prompt all remaining steps. Using the toothbrushing example, the child would independently pick up their toothbrush out of the toothbrush holder, and then all remaining steps are prompted. Forward chaining is recommended if the child can successfully complete more steps at the start of the behavior chain. Forward chaining has the advantage of using behavior momentum, as the first step is often the simplest, easiest step. If I am using forward chaining to teach a child to make French toast, then I would have the child get the bread out of the refrigerator independently and prompt every other step. Once the first step is mastered at an independent level, then move on to the first 2 steps, then the first 3 steps, etc. Total task presentation. Total task chaining. As the name implies, total task chaining is when you teach the complete behavior chain, one step after another. Total task is what most teachers or parents naturally use to teach a skill. For example, okay, turn the water on. Now soap up your hands. Good, now scrub your hands together, etc. The adult walks the child through each step, prompting as necessary. For a child with autism, this may still be too complex of a teaching style.